We got Lauren Murphy back here on the program, who's supposed to be fighting on the UFC on ESPN card against Ashlee-Evans Smith. Unfortunately, that is not happening. She is out, but we wanted to catch up with Lauren anyways and see what she is up to. So, Lauren, first off, how are you today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on again. I love your show. So,
Well, I
yeah.
appreciate that. The check's in the mail. I appreciate the endorsement. That's good. But before we start, I wanted to talk about your teammate Henry Corrales. Obviously, a big win for the Lab, getting that victory over Aaron Pico. How much of a boost was that to your team, seeing him get that win?
It's so awesome. It's so badass. And it was just perfect Henry, too. Like, he got knocked down, he got back up, he kept fighting hard. And he landed one of those lunch pails right on the side of Pico's head. And, that's lights out. And we all know that Henry hits hard, and we all know how tough he is. But we were all aware what a tough fight that was, too, and what a big name he was fighting. So for him to have such a spectacular victory, it just pumps us all up, like not only for ourselves, but for Henry, too. You watch a guy work so hard in the gym and bleed and sweat. He's just a really hard worker. He deserves every ounce of goodness that's coming his way from that victory. It's awesome.
And what I love about his story too is that he started his Bellator career, he had some tough competition, things weren't going his way. He goes to the Lab. From what I heard from John, just fit in right away. He's been a good addition, and now he gets the biggest win. So I mean, that's sort of a nice story too, right? It's just the fact that he's been a great addition to the Lab.
Yeah, he has. He's a really good teammate. He's tough for anybody, when other guys are in camp and he's giving them their rounds. He's just a great look for everyone. He's just he's the perfect kind of fighter for the Lab, because the Lab is known, we're known that all of our fighters are hard workers. We're a very hardworking team. We're a very close-knit team. And so, of course, Henry fit right in because he's a very hard worker and he's very easy to get along with. So that's really what we want. We want hard workers and we want good people. And those are kind of the two requirements to be on our team,
Right. Yeah,
So,
exactly. And just be cool, that kind of works too. And Henry's like pretty much the epitome of that. But let's talk about your team. A lot of your teammates are fighting on this ESPN card, and you were supposed to be on this card, but an injury forced you out. What was the injury, for those who don't know, and how's recovery time looking?
um, I'm almost cleared now. So it was just a little bit too soon. I had a issue with some cartilage in my foot. And so the doctor went in there, they took out all the cartilage, and they're just letting it grow back on its own. In order to do that, they drilled into my bone. And when the bone bleeds, it gives the cartilage nutrients, so it can grow back on top of the bone itself. And it just takes a while. It's a healing process. You have to kind of baby it. So I've been doing that. The surgery was in September. The doctor told me you're probably not, you're not going to be cleared for about 6 months. So I was pushing hard. I was really hoping that, I could get cleared for this February fight, but it's just about 6 to 8 weeks, a little too soon, So, yeah. I'm just now I'm able to start doing almost everything. I wear my shoes now a lot. I never used to wear wrestling shoes, but I might go take out some stock in Nike or something, because I have some Nike wrestling shoes and they're always on my feet now. But I've been getting some really good work, and I think I've made really good use of the time that I've had, and I've really improved in a lot of areas, particularly in my stand-up. I wasn't able to grapple for a long time. I could just move around, like boxing, a little bit of kickboxing, but not really. But my footwork has really improved and my head movement has improved. And so I think I've made the most out of my time off.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that because June was the last time you fought. Was the plan to take that much time off, or were you trying to get in there a little bit sooner? Or were you just holding out for a card in Phoenix?
No, the card in Phoenix, like I felt so blessed to be on it. I was so happy. And I think I was actually one of the first matchups that they put on there. I was just jacked up to be here fighting in my hometown, not my hometown, but fighting in the town I'm living in now, having everything close to home. I've literally never had that before, not since, gosh, not since like 2010. So, yeah, I was really looking forward to it, but you have to take things as they come, and my foot is hurt, and that's just the way it is, and it's nobody's fault really. But yeah, I would have loved to have been back in there. I'd like to fight like 4 times a year if I could, so it is what it is. Like, I don't mind taking the time off either, because I think that's when we can really improve, is between fights. And so I've really tried hard to just maximize my time away and hopefully come back, a completely different fighter.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're always building those blocks, as they say, in your career, just trying to add more tools to the arsenal. Your last fight, I know, was a tough one against Eubanks. What did you take away from that performance that you can bring into your next fight?
A couple different things. I've worked a lot on my defensive wrestling. Twice now, 2.5 times kind of. I've lost because I've gotten taken down. And so Sarah McMahon took me down. She stayed on top, and that's how she won that fight. Sajara took me down, and she stayed on top. I think I did a better job on bottom, like staying safe and threatening submissions and stuff, but that's just not going to work in MMA. I also, one thing that I really want to change for my next fight is I cut way too much weight for that fight. I was trying to stay a little bit bigger since Sajara is so big. I also tried to kind of match her size, and then I ended up cutting a shitload of weight and I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. So I'm going to keep my weight a little bit lower, which, weight cutting has never been an issue for me. So I know I can make 125 really well, but I think I just pushed the limit a little too far, trying to stay big for that fight. And then when fight week came, I had too much weight to cut.
And then on that note, Sajara is moving up to bantamweight. I imagine this was something you were expecting because I know she's had a lot of trouble making 125.
I actually have a funny story about that. So when we were all in the Tough House together, we had a superlative awards at the end of the season. And they show this, of course, on the show. But we made all these different categories, and then we all voted for each other. And Sajara was voted most likely to change weight classes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You should have put some money on that. You could have won something.
Yeah, she was voted most likely to go up to bantamweight. And she was pissed. She was mad that we voted her most likely to bump up a weight class because the other categories were like, the next Conor McGregor, which she voted for herself, but she didn't win that one.
Okay, interesting.
And, she called all the cameras over and she was talking so much shit about us for making that her superlative award. And now, lo and behold, she's going up a weight class. So it looks like we were right this whole time anyway.
One of your former teammates, McKenzie Dern, is staying at strawweight. Were you surprised to see that? Because she's had a lot of trouble as well making 115.
I was kind of surprised to see that. I think she would do really well at 125. The problem with that is that, like McKenzie worked out with us. I'm a 125er and I am bigger than McKenzie, but her ground game is so good. I think that it can negate a lot of that size disadvantage that she might experience if she were to go up a weight class. However, McKenzie has the ability to make 115. So if she wants to put in the time before a fight, if she wants to put in the time that it takes to get her body down to that weight, she can make 115, I think, in my opinion, safely. Maybe not the easiest weight cut, but it would be a safe weight cut and definitely a doable weight cut. But, it takes time. It's a long process to get your body down to those weights. And if she wanted to, she could do that. But I also think she could be successful at 125. People don't realize McKenzie hits really, really hard. I mean, I think they're starting to see it now after that knockout or the knockdown with Amanda Bobby Cooper. She hits really hard. She's not afraid of anything. And her ground game it's beyond world class. Like she's submitted me more times than I can even count. So, yeah, I think she's going to be fine wherever she goes. But I hope she gets it together because you don't want to see an athlete do that. Like, not even Sajara. Sajara and I don't necessarily get along, but I don't want to see her career derailed either by something that is so preventable.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. We haven't heard much from McKenzie. Do you still keep in touch with her even though she's not with the team anymore?
Yeah, every once in a while, like, we'll message back and forth or comment on each other's stuff on Instagram or something. Like, I really enjoyed training with McKenzie. I think she made me a lot better in the time that she was here. And so I do miss training with her. She's got that really super happy, bubbly attitude and personality. And I do miss that for sure. So I'm hoping to see her at UFC Phoenix. Hopefully she'll be in attendance at the show and we can hang out a little bit then.
You haven't had a fight booked, but you have been in the news a little bit because I know you made some comments about your former manager, and we don't have to get into the name or anything, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about that is that, did you have other fighters reaching out to you with similar horror stories of, basically, for those who didn't see it, you had a former manager that was taking money from your sponsors. Did other fighters kind of reach out to you once that news was put out there?
Yes, a couple people that he had managed also reached out to me. One guy was like, oh my God, he did the same thing to me. And that guy's actually retired now. So to him, it wasn't worth making like a big deal about it. But There were at least 2 other fighters that have been managed by him and 2 other fighters that were not managed by him, but that had had the same experience that reached out to me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that's happening in this sport. Just on that note, how good is how important is good management? I mean, I mention him a lot whenever I do interviews with his clients, but he is really good. Danny Rube, I mean, this guy goes the extra mile. He gets the big fights, and he's also good with the sponsorships. Like, how has it been with him, since you joined with him?
I've been with Danny for several years now. I enjoy working with Danny a lot. I feel like I can sit down and talk to Danny if I have any comments or concerns or questions. I feel like I could just be really open with him, and he's going to be honest with me, which was the number one thing I was looking for at that point. Was like, look, dude, I just need a guy that's going to tell me the truth. And Danny's always done that plus some. He also always stops in. He kind of monitors our training and our camps and everything else. He's just a good guy, and in this sport, that's kind of rare. It's hard to find people that are just upstanding and honest and good people. I think Danny's one of those people.
Yeah, and he's good to work with from a media perspective as well, which helps. I mean, a lot of people don't think of that, but it definitely makes a big difference. He's the only manager, by the way, and I love this because I'm like a super organized person. He's the only manager who will put an interview in Google, like a Google Calendar, which is so helpful because, like, for me, I need that to keep everything, kind of even keel.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and he knows a lot of people too, which is super helpful. I think that you want somebody that's connected when you're paying a manager. You want to be getting as much out of it as you're paying into it. And so he is super connected. The Nike wrestling shoes I'm wearing, those came from Danny. A lot of the that I have, it comes from Danny. A lot of the sponsorships that I have, Danny helps me with. So I think he's really going above and beyond. Yeah, I really like Danny Rube.
And I actually saw him last week, and I was going to say, because I was in LA for Bellator. Of course, his client Jake Hager got a big win there. We see a lot of MMA fighters, going over to pro wrestling, like Ronda Rousey. Could we ever see Lauren Murphy in the wrestling ring? Do you think?
I started following. I've met Becky Lynch a couple times. She's actually been to the lab before, and she was really, really kind to me when Tough was airing, and I was kind of, going through it a little bit. She wrote to me, and she was just really, really nice. And so I've always been a big Becky Lynch fan because of that. And I watched her win the Royal Rumble recently, and I just don't think that. First of all, that's a lot of athleticism. Those women out there doing some athletic stuff that I don't think I'm capable of. And then secondly, just to put on such a show. I'm a person that is very much myself. I'm very true to myself. I say what I think. I say what I mean. And I don't like to play a role. That you can't fit me into a box and force me to be a certain way. And that was kind of the experience that I had on The Ultimate Fighter, actually, was that they were trying to force me kind of into this heel position. I don't want to be that. That's not who I am. I'm just a regular, normal person, and that's really all I want to be. So I don't think pro wrestling will be for me, but I've enjoyed watching it more, as more fighters kind of make the crossover, and there's a little bit more crossover between both of the sports. I've enjoyed watching it a little bit more, but I'll just be a spectator. No, not really. Just a little bit. And I really didn't understand it. I was like, what is this about? Is it fake? Is it real? What are we doing here? But it's just, it's entertainment. It's an entertainment industry. And for me, I don't really necessarily want to be an entertainer. I want to be a fighter. I don't mind entertaining. I would like to entertain the crowds with my fights, but not with like a script. I don't think I would enjoy being an actress. You know what I mean? It's just that kind of stuff is not for me.
Gotcha. When are you looking to return? I know you said you just got back to training now. I know this is still kind of fresh, but do you have an idea of when you think you'll be returning to the cage?
My next doctor appointment is February 15th, and I think he's going to clear me to fight. I'm pretty sure. So I have like prescription shoes now. Yeah, I look like a total old person. They're like my rainbow bright shoes. But when I'm wearing those, I'm able to run. I'm able to run on an incline. I can sprint. I can jump. I can lift and get up on my toes as long as I'm wearing my special shoes. So my training is really starting to pick up now. And I think if I get cleared on the 15th, I'll be ready to go into a camp.
Excellent. And any opponents in mind? Ashley's fighting Andrea Lee. Do you want the winner? Like how? Is there anything you have? Are you scoping up the division right now?
Penny. Penny's got an opinion about it.
Yes.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, awesome.
I'm not really scoping out an opponent. Hey, I'm not really scoping out an opponent too much. I'm always kind of keeping my eye on the entire division. I actually really am a fan of women's MMA. I would watch women's MMA even if I was no longer fighting. So I've always got my eye on the division. I don't think I'll be facing either Andrea Lee or Ashlee-Evans Smith, just because the timing won't match up really after, it'll be a while before they're matched up again. And so I'm hoping to be matched up sooner than that. But really, it's like whoever, honestly, really whoever. Like, I'm ready to just get out there and test myself. Like I said, I think I've made a lot of improvements, and I want to see if it's going to pay off. I really struggled when I first got to the UFC. I had some tough fights. I was still kind of green. I wasn't super experienced yet. I mean, I had never even experienced one single loss ever in any sport until I lost to Sarah McMahon. And so this roller coaster ride that I've been on since my UFC career started, I think is just a result of me being an inexperienced competitor and being a little new to the game. I don't feel like that anymore. Now I feel like a vet. Now I feel like I can get in there. I can stay calm. I can execute a game plan, to the best of my ability. I feel like I know how to handle my opponents and their coaches a lot better than I used to. The media, I think, is a little more familiar to me. I'm more comfortable being in front of a camera. So this is all kind of stuff that was just so new to me, almost 5 years ago now when I got signed. And it's taken a while for me to really get the hang of how all of this works. I think for some fighters, it comes really naturally. For me, it was a learning process. So.
Well, you made my job easy today, Lauren. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the interview, as always. Glad to hear the recovery's going well. Just remind people where they can find you on social media, and if you got any sponsors or shout-outs or thank yous or anything like that, the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, I just recently, today, Freakonomics Radio released a podcast, and I'm in it, so go check that out. It's really cool. It's called The Hidden Side of Sports is the series that I'm on. So that's awesome. But you guys can find me, Lauren Murphy, MMA. That's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Hit me up. I do talk to the fans. You know what I mean? I'm usually pretty accessible. So find me. Also, thank you to Onnit for all their sponsorship. Onnit is definitely the best products. I never worry about testing positive for anything because they're third-party certified. It's awesome. So get some Onnit. And a big thanks to Danny Rube, too. Thanks, man.